Have you ever wondered what your elf on the shelf does when you're not around? In this special 1-hour episode, we're diving deep into some of the wildest and most mysterious elf sightings ever recorded. From elves caught on camera to unbelievable encounters, you won't want to miss this. Like, subscribe, and let's jump right in. For this short clip, we have an elf who was caught walking on the sleeping dog. This elf likely wanted to play with its furry friend, and in turn, it got caught moving. What a marvelous sighting. For this short clip, we have an elf who's lying down on its side and shaking. One evening, the owner found their elf this way and it just kept shaking. We don't know whether the elf was ill or just messing with its owner, but it's pretty strange nonetheless. The security camera of a home captured something bizarre when the owners were not at home. In this clip, the elf on the shelf was caught on camera moving directly in front of the security camera and then started staring at it. What a sight to see. In this clip, we can see the elf on the shelf being recorded by a hidden camera, which captures him starting to move. The elf slowly moves its arms and legs before using its magical powers to briefly stop the camera from recording. Now we can see the elf looking straight at it, and the elf winks and smiles before using its magic once again, this time to disappear. When this girl was sleeping one night, she woke up to strange noises coming from the living room, so she rushed downstairs to see what was going on, only to find herself in the middle of hundreds of elves. It's literally insane, and her elf on the shelf was also present in the middle of the gathering, so maybe it invited its friends over for a party or something like that. I'm really curious about what they were really talking about. Maybe they were just having fun, or there's some chance that they were planning something bad. Well, it's up to you guys to decide, so make sure to keep on watching until the end.
Is lots of elf on the shelf, and I mean lots of them.
This guy is aware that something is going on late at night and that their elf was up to something, so he installed a concealed camera to catch this mischievous elf. Let's take a look at what he's got. Alright, so it enters the room, disappears behind the table, and starts flying across the room. This elf is definitely using elf magic, but following this performance, he goes to the bedroom where the man is sleeping, and well, let's just take a look at what the elf ends up doing. We don't know for sure what the elf on the shelf here is doing in this clip, but its movement caught on camera suggests that perhaps there's another elf on the shelf nearby who's about to join his buddy in front of the camera, so let's check it out. We must admit, this is one of the most confusing elves on the shelf caught on camera clips that we've ever seen, because we still don't know if the elf in this clip was trying to have what seemed to be a salt bath or if they were trying to hide in it. Enjoy the clip and tell us your opinions in the comments. For this clip, we have two elves that were arriving at their owner's house. The elves used a zip line to come to the front of the door, and this entire clip looks like it's taken right from Mission Impossible movies. When the elves got to the front door, they hid from the camera and possibly entered the house through an open window. In this clip, an elf on the shelf was caught flying on camera. This clip was recorded by a man who set up a hidden camera to catch his elf on the shelf moving, and after a while, his elf on the shelf flew into the living room and started moving around, but eventually it did something that will surprise you, so keep on watching. Now we have a really rare clip of a red-headed elf on the shelf moving. It's rare to see red-headed elves, let alone them moving. In this clip, the elf appears on camera and it looks like it's carrying something in its tiny hands, but then the elf disappears from sight and returns empty-handed. The elf slowly becomes more comfortable being on camera and inspects it closely before starting to use its magic to float around. It's said that mysterious things happen in the dark, and this clip shows such examples because a mom who recorded it captured this fascinating moment of her elf on the shelf using magic to fly and teleport all over the place. This is truly amazing. This clip captures one elf who's wearing green clothes turning his fellow elf into a pile of candy cane dust. The owner of these elves was shocked to discover what looks to be a crime scene, and we can only hope that the other elf will return to normal instead of remaining just a pile of crushed candy canes. Who knew that elves could use such dangerous magic? Just imagine if your elf would decide to cast this spell on you and turn you into candy cane dust.
Start the elf off the shelf. And then this is what I discovered. And it's, wait, is this, it looks like, yeah, it is. It's Buddy's hat, the elf on the shelf. And what in the world? He turned into something. Was it Zart? What is this something? Look, let's take a close-up look. Whoa! Whoa, yeah, it does. It looks like candy cane mints. Buddy? Oh dear. Zart, what in the world did you do?
While some elves on the shelf don't mind getting caught on cameras, and some even wave at the camera once they spot it, there are also some elves who just don't like getting caught on camera moving, and will do everything to avoid it. A great example is this elf, who after trying its best not to get caught flying, eventually got caught. Now we have a clip of a group of elves sitting in darkness, and we can see the usual red elf, but next to it sits a more rare blue elf and green elves. However, the moving elf is the pink one, who comes from behind the camera and shoves the blue elf before showing its own face to the camera. While all the elves are not moving, the pink one seems to be having tons of fun alone. A kid and her mom caught their elf on the shelf moving on camera by a lucky accident. But in this clip, the elf was seen climbing down from the top of the wall to first rest under the pillows and then suddenly reappear to start moving towards the camera. The elf even seems to be smiling at the end, so let's check it out. This elf noticed that his owners were trying to capture him moving on camera, but instead of sitting still and not moving at all, he decided to wave at the camera, gifting us this wonderful clip. This clip shows two elves bringing a magical gift to their owner. This owner pops up this little treasure chest and discovers golden glitter inside, but after digging through it, she finds a magical key. We don't know what this key can unlock yet. Maybe it's a key to the magical doors leading to the North Pole. If that's the case, this present is a spectacular one, and the owner of one of these elves should be very happy to receive it.
Magic? Okay, let's dig and see if we can find a toy. It's supposed to be a shiny new toy. Don't see anything quite yet. Okay, let's see. No, nothing. There's so much glitter. Do you see all that? It's like magic. Oh, I feel something. Oh, look. Do you see that? Okay, I think I found it. Like it's a key. Do you see that? It says okay on it.
Now we have a clip where you can see a hungry elf walking towards the pantry, opening its doors and starting to steal food. At first, the elf takes some kind of snack bag and probably brings it to its secret hideout, but then the elf returns to steal another chocolate cake mix. While what the elf did isn't nice, it's still a marvelous clip. An elf on the shelf played hide and seek with the camera as it moved around what seemed to be like a kitchen. After playing hide and seek with the camera for a while, it had to be forced into permanent hiding when the dog came into the kitchen. We think this elf was afraid of the dog snitching on it. Now we have a short clip of an elf on the shelf curiously approaching a camera, and it seems like the elf kisses the camera, but then he suddenly flips it over moments before it stops recording. In this clip, we have an elf that doesn't wait until nightfall to stretch his legs for a bit. His name is Boris, and he seems to be unaware of the fact that he's been set up and is being filmed. After his human friend leaves him sitting on the sofa alone for just a minute to go downstairs, it only takes Boris a moment to seize the opportunity. The little fella gets up and spins around, doing pirouette-like movements, almost as if he's practicing figure skating. For an instant, he disappears from the screen before flying back into view and then dropping down on his face as he hears his friend coming back. Unfortunately, Boris might have been a little too reckless since he was not only caught on camera, but even gives himself away due to the fact that he's in a completely different position than what his human friend left him in before. We have a clip of this kid capturing his elf on the shelf enjoying some Tic Tacs. When the boy points the camera at the elf, it doesn't move, but when the kid turns around and it returns to the elf, you can see that the arms have moved and it starts eating Tic Tacs. It's one of the many clips where elves are too shy to move on camera, but as soon as you leave their presence, they start moving.
I have to go and see what it was.
There is nothing an elf on the shelf cannot do, including moving and pushing things on camera. In this clip, an elf on the shelf was caught doing various pranks. Let's hope the owners didn't get too mad at it. For this short clip, we have footage of a security camera at a garage. It captured an elf who entered the garage, turned on the lights, and looked straight at the camera. The elf was probably planning to do something more, but it noticed the camera and escaped the scene. This clip shows an elf on the shelf jumping up and down the bedroom and getting caught on the camera while doing so, but when it discovers it's being filmed, the elf could only think of a place to hide, and its choice will surprise you, so keep watching. This clip is from a family YouTube channel which captured a unique elf. It's unlike all other moving elves on the shelf because this one is just a giant elf. It must be the size of an adult person, and who knew that elves can grow that tall? Unfortunately, this elf was really angry that it was that tall, and it's just making a mess all around the house, like throwing furniture around. Maybe this elf got fired by Santa and became angry because now he doesn't have a job.
Sounds like it's getting a pan.
Yeah?
What is it?
He almost looks familiar.
Oh no, what's he gonna do with that? Nothing.
Nothing, alright?
Oh, he's gonna mess with the chairs.
Gigo, he's just like you. He is a naughty little elf.
He looks
Did you
familiar
tell someone
though.
to go into the house and break into our house? What did he just do?
He turned on the sink.
He turned on the water. Are you serious?
The water?
This is definitely not your traditional elf on the shelf caught moving on camera clip, but it's a fun one nonetheless. The elf jumps off the hearth to attack its owner, and after this intense fight, the elf emerges as the winner, leaving its owner lying unconscious on the ground. Luckily, the rest of the family returned home in time to help the guy.
Oh, I don't think so. I'm not today. Oh, what? Where did he go? Oh.
Honey, it's Daddy. Oh
At least the elf's okay.
This clip shows an elf on the shelf that's taken its owner's PlayStation 4 and wanted to return it to GameStop. Now, you might think this elf is a thief, but in reality, the kids were misbehaving, and the elf wanted to protect them from ending up on the naughty list this year, so he took away their PlayStation to discipline them.
Spider-Man, Leland. And your controllers.
Come on, we gotta take
What? He was almost there, too. He was just right outside the GameStop.
How was he sneaking around?
What was he trying to do? So I think he was trying to return your PS4.
This little child wanted to catch an elf on the shelf, but it takes a weird turn because not even the kid can figure out what the elf was doing. The elf captured in this clip is a really strange fellow, and his behavior is peculiar, to say the least. This clip shows one of the elves driving a super expensive sports car. Obviously, it's a toy car because no elf on the shelf is large enough to drive a normal car, but it's just crazy to think that they know how to drive, and it shows that elves on the shelf have many different talents. Now, this clip captures elves doing something I didn't think was possible. These elves crafted a makeshift hot air balloon and started flying across the room with two of their babies in the basket. Maybe these elves got tired of working for Santa and wanted to go on a short vacation, or maybe they just got bored with sitting at their owner's house and wanted to have some fun with their babies, or maybe the elves just wanted to impress their owners. We will probably never know, but this clip is a great example of the ingenuity that some of these elves have.
What are you doing on top of their hot air balloon? Whoa, it's so pretty with all the snowflakes. Are you two having a fun time? boy, what were you two thinking? I cannot believe they're flying on top. Well, if you guys like this video, don't forget to like it down below. And if you'd like to see more crazy things that my elves do, you're welcome to subscribe to my channel. Check out things that they do now, things that they do in the future, and things that they used to do.
These two guys purchased some cursed Elf on the Shelf cereal, which made their Elf on the Shelf move at 3 a.m. You can see it appears briefly in the background, which made the guys go downstairs and investigate. The elf is continuously peeking around the corner as if baiting the guys to come closer. The elf ends up going to the restroom, and who knows why the elf acted in the way he did. But it's surely a great Elf on the Shelf caught moving on camera clip.
Go, go, catch it, catch it. Wait, where is it? Whoa. What are you?
Guys, you're too slow. Come on.
Is it taunting us? Dude, it wants us to follow. Let's go. Hurry. Wait, hello? Where'd it go? Elf? It could have went anywhere. In here maybe? Hello? Where'd you go? there he is.
These elves must be used to being captured on camera, and they should be aware by now that people know that they can come to life. And back in the day, every elf was captured moving on camera would get fired, but maybe this year Santa has changed the North Pole laws or something like that, because this elf was sitting with his face turned away from the camera when out of nowhere it just turned around and looked straight into it. It's just insane, so let's check it out. This clip captured a day in the lives of 3 elves on the shelf, from working around the house to giving a haircut to their friend Barbie. This is an insane clip that shows a lot of details on how the elves spend their free time, so let's take a look. Nighttime is fun for elves on the shelf because they always think that they're alone and won't be caught, and the elf on the shelf in this clip knows how to make use of that time. Unfortunately, there's a hidden camera set up to capture its fun time, so we can say that the elf had failed in some sense, but it also succeeded making the day. In December 2013, an office was explored by an elf on the shelf, and it was caught wandering around with 4 surveillance cameras. The team was able to observe every inch of the movement of the elf, which roamed all around the office, checking out the Christmas lights and other decorations. Finally, camera 4 captured the elf moving into another room and coming back holding a piece of paper, which is a scan of itself. The elf probably thought that's how humans take selfies. Here we have another clip showcasing elves eating their Thanksgiving dinner. The elves can be seen with evidence of the food they stole right in their mouth. We can't blame them because they might have known that they might not be invited to Thanksgiving, so they decided to take food for themselves.
Well, look at the mashed potatoes. Mabel started mashing them. She's so
This clip captured a pregnant elf on the shelf moving and giving birth right in front of the camera. This is probably the first time such an event has been captured on camera, and it's truly magical. You can see that the baby elf looks slightly different than its mother because it's still just a newborn, and it will grow up to be a magical elf just like its mother, so let's check it out.
Oh, I just can't believe all of her cuteness. Go ahead, we'll put you right inside there. Oh, such a little tiny, cute little baby elfkin. Woo! Memes, is that you? It is!
If you thought your cookies were safe in a cookie jar, then you might want to rethink your belief after watching this clip. So basically, a kid woke up to see their elf on the shelf sitting next to several cookies that has to be taken out of the cookie jar in the kitchen. The elf had even eaten some, as the crumbs indicate. Luckily, the elf left some for the kids to share. Some elves on the shelf are super funny like this one. It was just chilling on a Christmas tree and looked straight into the camera and raised its hand in a dabbing position. It's just insane. It makes you think whether it's something Santa's teaching the elves or it's just this elf that's seen the kids do it many times and wanted to try it itself. This guy is on a quest to catch the elf on the shelf moving over the Christmas season. He tried putting chocolate coins and candy canes in front of the elf to make him move and grab a piece of the chocolate for a snack, but it's not gonna work. He needs to pay closer attention to the elf, but nothing appears to be changing. So he turned off the lights and installed a night vision camera, and then the elf vanishes, leaving the goodies half empty. What happened to it? Fortunately, the guy fitted a GPS tracker to the elf to keep track of it. And where do you think the elf on the shelf went? Of course, to the North Pole, and the elf is probably going to tell Santa everything that's happened to him. Now we have a clip of this cheerful and adorable elf that was discovering playing in the house and being watched by the cat. After climbing the stairs, the elf balances itself high up on the stair railing before sliding down. The landing probably hurt, so he's gonna try it again with a pillow. Fortunately, the cat was super patient with his little elf friend and no harm was done to it. In this clip, YouTube Meeble Spirella managed to catch their elves on the shelf sneaking various candies and sweets. On Christmas Eve of 2013, this elf was caught riding around the house in a tiny car with his Barbie friends. You might not notice anything weird at first, but then it moves a little and walks past the camera only to look at it directly. It jumped down from the counter, opened the door to the pantry, and threw away everything it could reach. There were also a few moments in the video where Barbie drives on her own. And you'll see the elf continuing to drive around his car, causing a mess in the kitchen and having a good time playing with the toys in the house. After the elf had its fun, it returns to the same spot in the kitchen and freezes in the same way with hopes that nothing will suspect it. This girl discovered that one of her elves on the shelf was pregnant, and eventually the elf gave birth to baby twins. One of the babies is even wearing green clothes, and the other wears traditional red elves. We can only wonder why this is the case, and no one even knows how or why these elves got pregnant, but it's an amazing clip, so let's check it out.
Are you allowed to touch elf babies?
I think so.
Oh, so we have a boy and a girl.
But they both have eyelashes.
Everyone has eyelashes.
It's not true.
Even boys have eyelashes.
They do?
Yes. Go look at Dad.
Our next elf on the shelf caught on camera shows the elf trying to find the right position for it to either sit or rest. The elf is seen moving towards the sink before moving away and then tries to rest on the counter before changing its mind again, and that must have been why it was spotted on the camera that was recording its every movement. As you might know, elves on the shelf move around only during the night so they can't be seen by humans, but this clip shows something different because it proves that some elves also move during the day and even scare children in broad daylight. Just look at this elf simply chilling at the fireplace. It's one of the stranger clips because it's super weird to see an elf moving in bright daylight, and it even seems to be aware of the fact that he's being recorded, but it doesn't stop him from moving, so let's check it out. This elf noticed that his owners were trying to capture moving on camera, but instead of sitting still and not moving at all, he decided to wave at the camera, gifting us this wonderful clip. This clip was recorded by a girl who was playing with her elf on the shelf in the pantry when she noticed that another elf, this one wearing black clothes, is trying to squeeze under the doors. As she picks up the elf, she notices that he doesn't have any legs, and then the other two elves can be seen waving to the girl from the other side of the doors. According to the girl, the two elves actually locked her inside the pantry, and she had to wait for hours until her mother came back from work to unlock the doors. Who knew that elves could pull such evil pranks off on their owners?
Okay, you don't look as derpy. You look a little wonky. Your hat's coming off, Evel. But look at, there's this perfectly derpy little guy. He looks happy. And then here's this little sad squished guy who lost his legs in surgery. Huh? Oh, hello! over.
It's time for some vitamins, and this elf on the shelf knows the right vitamin to pick from. In this clip, the elf on the shelf is trying its best to move the oranges on the table, and after much struggle, it gave up and decided to nap by resting on one of the oranges instead. A makeshift pillow out of an orange is something we never thought was possible, but this elf proved us wrong. For this clip, we have an elf sitting between some toys and it slowly starts moving before getting up and leaving the frame. Seconds later, the elf shoves its head right into the camera from above and finally flips it over. This elf probably wasn't happy about its owner trying to record it moving. Up next, we have a crazy clip of an elf named Pogo hosting a pool party in the sink. At first, the elves fill the sink with water and then bring some inflatable toys, so every elf in the house would know that it's a party. After Pogo tests out its inflatable flamingo, it invites its elf friends to join in the sink. As you can see, elves definitely not a party.
Looking good. Let's put in our flamingo. So heavy. Uh-oh. Now we need the rubber ducks. Let me touch my friends to see if they can come over. We're here. Hi there, everybody. Uh-oh.
This elf was captured taking care of a sweet tooth with his fellow elves and making them cookies. This is a very nice gesture and it shows how caring and considerate these magical beings are. Would you like to taste a cookie made by an elf? In the first clip, the family elf Kara was being asked by one of the family members to tell Santa they'd been really good that year so they could receive gifts from Santa, but then came the unbelievable. Kara responded with what we think is a yes by moving her eyes in the other direction. Now, according to the family, Carol arrived in their home on December 1st, and just 7 days before Christmas, she moved her eyes, causing them to get scared, but no one should be afraid of elves. They're friendly creatures after all. This next clip was recorded by a girl who woke up in the middle of the night and only sees her elf moving around in bed, so she started recording it with her phone, and she captured this marvelous sight of her elf on the shelf moving around, but it quickly notices her recording, so the elf stops moving as if nothing had happened. Up next, we have an elf on the shelf who appears in front of the camera and then quickly turns its back and walks away from it. A second later, the elf approaches the camera again, but this time the elf is rubbing its hands. The little fellow was likely planning something mischievous because it left its side again, only to reappear with its friend. These two elves keep showing up in front of the camera until their owner enters the room, and then one of the elves just barely stops moving in time to avoid getting caught. This woman started hearing bell noises coming out of her fridge, meaning that some of her elves were caught inside of it. When she opened the fridge door, she found one of the elves wearing green clothes hanging upside down, and another elf with more usual red attire being stuck inside a water bottle. The elf wrote a note asking for help. Finally, the green elf speaks and explains how this entire situation came to be, so let's check it out.
The water bottle, but how'd she get in there? What? Zart, how in the world did Meebles get inside that water bottle?
Well, I was hanging upside down and I thought she might want to go in there because it'd be, toasty and cold, kind of like the North Pole. And
no one was watching. However, when it realized that someone might be watching, it flowed directly up into the camera's lens and proceeded. We have a clip of this guy having dinner with his elf, and as he finishes eating, he stood up and left the room. But unbeknownst to the elf, his owner left a hidden camera right in front of the elf. The elf ends up getting captured by a camera and coming to life and moving around. It even peeks into the cup to see what the owner was drinking. Peeking right at the camera, the elves even start headbutting the camera, and then they heard someone coming to open the doors and made their escape. In this clip, we can see an elf on the shelf moving right in front of a hidden camera, but not long after, the elves notice the camera and takes a closer look at it. Perhaps you can't find many cameras in the North Pole, and that's why this elf is super curious about such a device. Maybe it doesn't even know that it's being recorded, and that's why the elf doesn't hurry to escape being recorded. What seemed to be an innocent clip of grandma unwrapping items turned out to be something straight out of a movie scene. A camera caught an elf trying to walk out of the house before being caught on camera, and well, let's just take a look. In this classic Elf on the Shelf clip, we can see the elf slowly start moving around, but before it looks around to make sure no one can see it, it takes off. Clips like this show that the elf on the shelf can definitely come to life and move on their own, but only if no one's watching them. This little girl was soundly asleep, probably dreaming of Santa's gifts. The surveillance camera catches a glimpse of an elf peeking at her multiple times. It had multiple attempts to come near her, bouncing all over. The father caught the elf sleeping beside the little kid and thought that he saw the elf smile. What a wholesome clip. For this elf, it's the 10th day it's spending at this family's house, and it was the day when it eventually got spotted moving on video by the dad. Take note of how he successfully captures the elf. First, he places the elf snacks to entice him to enter the room. Nothing appears to be moving at first, but then the elf flies into the room with a marker and greets us with a Merry Christmas. What a lovely elf. And after that, the elf walks away without even touching the elf snacks. It's most likely not as good as the snacks that it gets from Santa at the North Pole. As this guy records an introduction for his YouTube video, you can see his elf sitting behind him on a closet start to move its arm and wave at the camera. What a spectacular sighting. Now they introduce to their son, the elf, and they make great friends.
Touch him. I'm not supposed to touch him.
Now we have a clip where this teenager was reading a book while his elf was sitting on a coffee table next to him. Unexpectedly, the elf starts moving, and when its owner notices, he jumps off the chair and runs away. Elves rarely intend to scare their owners, but seeing your elf move on its own can sometimes be scary. Now we have a clip of an elf on the shelf recording a gameplay video of him playing Minecraft. We didn't know that elves also like playing video games, and no one can really be sure if it's true or whether this elf is one of a kind who likes gaming. Anyways, he's the only one who has recorded gameplay video, so let's check it out. The elf in this clip is... So basically, this mom was having some suspicions about her elf because it would be placed at one spot and the next morning it would be found at another place around the home. If you want to catch your own elf, make sure to listen closely on what I'm about to say because this mom shows the best tricks and tips for catching an elf. At first, she shows us that the elf is sitting silently on the Christmas tree and then proceeds to show us what seems to be the elf's door at the North Pole, which teleports it back to Santa Claus. That's the spot where you have to put your camera at because the elf will probably be trying to go back to Santa. So the next morning, she sets up 2 cameras in the living room and the kitchen, and as expected, the elf goes down the tree, and you guessed it, to the little door. Now we have a rare instance of an angry elf on the shelf who saw the hidden camera and attacked it. The elf punches and even headbutts the camera. The elf probably got angry at its owner for trying to catch it moving because the elves can't allow themselves to be recorded in motion. The elf keeps punching and hitting the camera before flipping it over at the very end of the clip. What a rare sighting of an elf on the shelf moving. The final clip shows an elf who's obviously in a party mood. In the days leading up to Christmas, this smart little guy eventually figured out how to use a laptop and goes to YouTube to listen to some music, and he apparently knew exactly what he was in the mood for before starting his little party as he starts playing his favorite song and showing off his sick dance moves. Partying with elves would be super fun, and it's a pity that they aren't allowed to move in front of people. Two elves on the shelf were caught moving on camera and having a string showdown on their own. It's hard to know who will win between the two, so pick your fighter and keep on watching until the end. For this short Elf on the Shelf caught moving clip, we have an elf who saw a camera rolling and decided to look straight into its lens. The elf shoves its face into the camera and quickly makes its exit. What a wonderful sight. Now we have a clip of this Elf on the Shelf caught moving around during the daytime. It starts its journey from Santa's lap and slowly makes its way towards the camera, where it peeks its head right in the middle of the frame before turning off the recording.
A hidden camera captured an impressive display of magic by an elf, and it's nothing short of awesome. Too bad the elf went into hiding afterwards and we couldn't see more of it.
The Elf on the Shelf phenomenon is a Christmas tradition in which elves go around the neighborhood to spy on children and see if they're being good or bad. This elf has no idea that he was being watched by a drone camera as he went around the town. Luckily, he didn't break the speed limit, and this clip just shows how hard the elves are working. In this clip, we have a joyful elf on the shelf who, upon moving, climbed down the Christmas tree and walked up to the cat. The elf looked like it wanted to pet its furry friend, but the cat got super scared of the elf and walked away. It's likely that it's the first moving elf the cat has seen, so that's why it's scared of it. The elf tries walking up to the cat a few more times, but he never succeeds in petting it. Now we have a clip of a baby elf that was flying with methods that are more traditional instead of using hot air balloons or airplanes. This baby elf was using magic to fly. This elf is also way cuter and even more powerful than the normal elves that we're used to, so the guy that recorded him put a secret camera in his living room to record him throughout the night, and he ended up catching this cute little flying elf around the room back and forth until it reached the table and noticed the secret camera recording him, so the elf got scared and turned it off.
A mysterious elf chose midnight to fly around the dining room and got caught on camera in the process. While at first it seemed the elf didn't notice the camera, the way it flew into hiding all of a sudden made us suspicious, so let's check it out.
While this is one of the shortest clips on the list, the surprise it packs will give you thrills. Not only did we get to see an elf that decorates, but we also got an elf on the shelf that would go into hiding immediately rather than admire its own work. Now we have a clip of this elf on the shelf seemingly sitting still on the kitchen counter, but soon enough it starts moving its eyes. You can clearly see that the elf is looking around to see if it's alone in the room and whether he can start moving freely.
It doesn't matter how long it takes when an elf on the shelf decides to do something, because they do it eventually. In this clip, a kid sets up a hidden camera to catch his elf on the shelf moving on camera, and what this camera managed to capture will scare you. It will make you question everything you know about elves on the shelf, so let's check it out.
Now we have a clip of this roaming elf who starts its journey on the bed before making its way on the Christmas tree. The owner of the elf is recording it without being noticed with its special binoculars, which allow him to see the elf from afar. This is why the elf moves freely and roams all around the house. What an incredible clip. This clip shows an elf who wanted Kellogg's cereal so bad that it literally dived right inside the box where it enjoyed eating cereal. This one's really crazy, guys, so this kid thought of pranking his elf on the shelf by pretending to leave the room. Little did the elf on the shelf know that he was under surveillance and his every move was being recorded. Some elves are easier to trick than others, but we should love our elves even if they're not moving.
Up next is this little naughty elf caught moving and tumbling down this little platform he was standing on, next to the little royal guard. It's just a short video, but it's worth watching. Since it's an elf on the shelf getting caught moving, let's check it out.
For this clip, we have footage from a hidden security camera in the kitchen, and one night the camera captured this wonderful moment of an elf on the shelf moving its face right into the lens before starting to dance and hop around on the kitchen counter. The elf had some midnight fun and finally takes off the counter. Prepare yourself because this elf on the shelf is about to, well, poop. I'm not kidding, and that's not even the craziest part, because this guy decided to prank their elf on the shelf by leaving some chocolate-covered raisins in a jar to kind of trick the elf into eating it, but the most insane thing ends up happening, so make sure to stick around to see for yourself. Elves on the shelf usually wear red clothes, but there are actually clothes that have other colors like green or even black, which is the rarest. Apparently, they have the strongest magical powers, and in this clip, the black elf was caught trying to steal Skittles from the kitchen counter. The family put a bag of Skittles right in front of the camera, hoping the elf would fall for the bait. The elf had problems opening the door, but eventually reached the Skittles and got caught by the person behind the camera. However, the elf just teleported out of his hand and escaped the dangerous situation. In this clip, we can see two elves that were caught sharing a pumpkin. We all know that elves love sweets, but who knew that they also indulge in pumpkins? Now that's news for us. For this clip, we have an elf who decided to surprise its sleeping owner by descending from the ceiling and hopping onto her head, which was enough to wake up the girl. Surprisingly, she gets scared and starts shouting. Perhaps she didn't see that it was an elf, and that's why she got so scared. Two elves on the shelf displayed impressive magic when they both decided to use magic to create a Christmas tree in their owner's house, and then the elves joined hands together like lovers facing the Christmas tree. That's probably the most romantic elf on the shelf clip ever, so enjoy it to the fullest. For this clip, we have a super energetic elf who starts moving right in front of the camera. The elf looks straight at the camera and does a little dance of joy before starting to walk back and forth. At the end of the clip, it seems that the elf has left the camera, but its legs return to the frame before finally taking off. Dishes, then turns the faucet on and relaxes for a moment, but then she takes to the air and now we have a clip showing a baby elf riding around a tiny toy car when the elf discovers one of her fellow elves locked inside a vault cage. The owner is shocked to see one of her cutest elves being locked and starts looking for the culprit, but none of the elves confess, so maybe it was an evil elf on the shelf locked up in the elf cage. Let's check it out.
How'd she get in and how did she get out? Yeah, she's looking out, but hey, you know what? She's still smiling.
If you believe you've seen it all, this clip might convince you that you haven't seen anything when it comes to elves on the shelf caught on camera. This clip shows an elf on the shelf wearing a piece of clothing you'll never believe is possible for an elf to wear, so watch carefully. For the residents of this house, elves on the shelf might not be on the budget for next Christmas, and we can't blame them and neither will you after watching this clip of their elf on the shelf clearly enjoying throwing tantrums and making his opinions known by trashing his owner's kitchen, opening shelves and fridge to rearrange everything inside, and then proceeding to dump some on the ground. From hiding behind the wall to coming out to play around the house to finally choosing the right spot to hide to avoid cameras, this elf has got a lot of decisions to make. Okay, you guys might be shocked about what you're about to see, but behold, it's an elf on the shelf. This time, it's just really gonna be fun. Well, this elf on the shelf was just getting caught out of bed going to the bathroom, but he can't seem to be able to lift the toilet seat. And here's the funny part, he decides to wee all over the bathroom sink instead. What a silly elf, right guys? These two mischievous elves were spotted having some fun with the camera. They were undoubtedly drawn to the shining item that seemed to be staring right at them. The second elf was initially camera shy, and the other occasionally strikes a pose. Elves are really something else. The other elf is in the back beginning to move as well. It's just unbelievable. You can't just tell me that these aren't real.
Now we have a clip recorded by a YouTuber who wanted to capture his elf on the shelf moving. As you can see, the elf on the shelf is sitting right in front of the camera, so you might think that the elf isn't going to move because elves usually don't move when they know that they're being recorded. But the elf eventually starts moving and even leaps straight into the camera. Let's check it out.
Just unlike any other, like compared to land flavors, bro. So imagine if they lived like 10, 20 years, or like a lot of marine life lives a lot longer. Imagine they lived like 90 years like turtles. They would have taken over long ago, dude. Would have been over.
Is this a fact?
No. But, you know, they, in the span.
Wait, dude, look.
I saw that.
Bro, it moved.
This elf played so many pranks on this family, and you're about to be in for an adventure. In the first few seconds of the video, the elf starts things off by sliding down the stairs and onto the fire truck toy. Then it drives to the family's room, and then the lights begin to rapidly turn off and on. But that's not the craziest part. The elf goes on to climb up the tree in the fireplace and, well, unhooks the family socks. This elf is just so mischievous. But because of that, we have this great clip to show you, so make sure to stick around to the end. So this YouTuber was flying his drone around the playground near his house looking to capture some beautiful winter footage, but he got shocked by an elf on the shelf that appeared in frame. Apparently, the elf jumped to the ground and latched onto the drone. You can see his little elf legs wiggling around, but eventually we can see the entire face of this elf. This is an amazing clip showing that elves on the shelf can be captured moving not just inside the house, but also outside, so let's check it out.
Can ever say they saw this, that's for sure. This is crazy! Oh my, okay. That's it. You know what? If he doesn't want to get off the drone, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fly it so fast, he'll have no choice but to fall off. Come on, keep going, keep going. Look, he's shaking. He's shaking off. This might be working, actually.
This dad decided to catch their elf on the shelf just a few days after Thanksgiving because he has tried many times before, but has yet to be able to catch anyone moving. He can only hope that an elf was caught this time. However, because they don't have a chimney, they think that the elf on the shelf will most likely come into their home through the front doors. As a result, he set up cameras and lights right at the entrance, and after a few hours of waiting, the elves finally came through the door just as the dad predicted. This is a perfect elf on the shelf clip, so let's enjoy it together. If you think elves are not intelligent, then this video will make you reconsider your stance on that, because this particular elf on the shelf displayed elf intelligence by using a grappling hook to climb the table and open the sweet jar from Santa. In this clip, you'll see a cheeky elf on the shelf using a small snow machine inside a house to, well, make snow. More experienced elves on the shelf can just use magic to conjure snow, but this one is probably a younger elf who just wanted to have some fun with this snow machine. So let's check it out.
In our house.
On top of the bed before. Who knew that elves like to dance? Not just dance, but at such a pace as these elves. If you can try moving your legs as quickly as these cute little elves, and you will see how difficult it is. For this clip, we have an incredible sighting of an elf appearing in front of the camera out of thin air before slowly making its way towards the recording device. Not long after, the elf uses its magic again to vanish out of thin air, but just a second later, the camera starts shaking and another elf on the shelf pops right into frame. We have this elf on the shelf sitting beside his little friend, and in this video, both of them can be seen smiling in front of the camera. Not only that, guys, but they also move their eyes. Alright, it's a little creepy, but that's okay since they meant no harm. You probably know that elves are great beings that are meant to protect little kids. In this short clip, we can see an elf named Abe being caught on camera while driving a toy car. Who knew that some elves could actually drive? Abe isn't even using its hands to steer the wheel, so we guessed that it's using magic to move around with the car.
Elves on the shelf show that they're not selfish creatures, at least shown by the elf in this next clip. The elf on the shelf was captured on camera laying a blanket on the cold floor with the other 2 dolls in the house, and even for the car toy. Now that's a caring elf. We can only hope that it also takes care of its owners. Either the elf on the shelf in this video is trying to get down by floating in the air and eventually flying away, or the elf eventually falls. It's hard to tell, but it's a cool clip nonetheless. This clip shows elves that got sick and because of that have turned into candy canes. Luckily, their owners knew exactly what to do and prepared a special potion that cured the elves and brought them back into their usual elf form. This is just amazing to see that a few drops of magic potion can treat the elves, so let's check it out.
Don't worry, Elvis. We are going to turn you back to normal. 1, 2. 1 little drop. Elvis is back to normal. Yay!
Now we have a clip of an elf who started moving at midnight, and at first the elf climbed up the Christmas tree, and that's when it probably noticed the camera recording it, but instead of running away, the elf slowly made its way down the Christmas tree and approached the camera, giving it a long examination. This elf was really curious about the camera and wasn't afraid of it at all. This clip shows 3 to 4 elves in a Spider-Man toy sitting on an empty strawberry carton, while the super rare black elf is pushing them from behind until the carton starts sliding down the stairs as if it were a sled. It looks super fun, but they end up crashing terribly at the bottom of the staircase. These elves are super naughty because they're supposed to be investigating the children and they see if they're acting good enough to get the gifts from Santa, but who's looking over the elves? If someone would send this clip to Santa, these elves would definitely get fired, so let's check it out. In this short clip, we can hear the chef elf on the shelf talking, and we can also see his friend walking behind his back.
To go, so I'll see you next year, and I can't wait to see how.
Okay, you won't be able to convince me any longer that these elves didn't develop a taste for cereal at this point, due to the fact that this family has heard noises coming from cereal boxes the night before. The family was determined to find out what the elf was up to and trapped him before it could get away, so the next day they decided to set up a camera in order to catch their elf in the act. The hunch was correct, and he was actually hanging around and snacking on some sugar cookie cereal. But more than that, he appears to be in a state of limbo, and that's just what you get for being a glutton. Anyways, let's have a look at this clip and see what happens at the end. This clip was captured by a man who set up a camera to catch his elf on the shelf floating around his bedroom before it started moving towards his pillows and acting as if it had gone to sleep, and finally moving down the bedside to hide on the floor. In this next clip, an elf on the shelf was caught on tape moving and rolling its eyes. The clip shows the elf sitting on what seemed to be the top of the stairs before it started moving to face another house. Then it fell at the same time. How strange is that? Now we have a clip of an evil elf on the shelf. A woman asked these 2 YouTubers for help because she swore that her elf on the shelf had turned evil, so they set up multiple security cameras around her house and waited until the elf started moving. And when it did, it started causing absolute mayhem. It shoves things off the counter, plays with the light switch, and even uses dark magic to teleport into the woman's bedroom, where then it peeks its head out of the wardrobe.
Sure. Yeah, guys, this elf on the shelf is corrupt.
In this clip, the elf can be seen wanting to climb down the staircase, but as if it knew there was a hidden camera trying to capture that exact moment. So the elf went back and hid, but then continued to peep as if it was hoping that the camera would move or stop rolling. So let's check it out. This clip shows an entire elf family stuck inside a lantern. You can see a grown-up elf with several of its babies, which are wearing many different colors. We don't know how all of them ended up being stuck there, but luckily one of the elves started talking and tells us an entire story, so let's keep watching until the end.
It's kind of hard to explain, but Dark saw this glowing magical light, and he thought we would like to hang out inside of it, but then he put us all inside, and then he closed it and locked it with a big lock, and now we're all trapped inside here. And I was hoping maybe, just maybe, you could use your magic gloves and help save us.
It's important to understand that there's a difference between an elf on the shelf flying and an elf on the shelf floating. Flying requires much stronger magic compared to floating, and in this clip you'll see an elf who's floating. It might be a young elf who still doesn't know how to use more powerful magic. Now we have a clip that captured the spontaneous moment when this dad got their elf on the shelf moving in the middle of the night. Right before this footage, he was told by kids that they should put on a CCTV camera to catch the elf. And so here we are. It turns out you should listen to your kids, especially when it comes to magical stuff like you're witnessing in this clip.
A YouTuber named Nicholas Bradley uploaded a clip of his elf on the shelf doing what most elves do, avoiding the camera at all costs. Unfortunately for the elf, the camera captured most of his movements, well, until it spotted the camera itself. This elf on the shelf was sitting still, but as soon as its owner walked past it, the elf started moving. The elf moved a bit and laid down on the side because its owner walked past the shelf again. But as soon as the owner wasn't present, the elf started moving again. This little elf wanted to move so much, but unfortunately for him, his owner was right next to him, so he couldn't risk being seen. The elf of this family was constantly teleporting all around their house, so in this clip they decided to trap it inside glass. But as soon as they did, the elf used its magical powers once again and teleported to freedom. The elf appears next to them on the couch, and it's one of the greatest displays of elf magic ever captured on camera.
Wait. It has to be though. What? It's not in there, dude?
Now we have a clip where this woman tricked her elf into moving. She told him that she was leaving the room, but little did the elf know that there was a hidden camera right in front of it. As the woman left the room, the elf started moving and jumping off the cabinet, leaving a magical trail behind itself. In this short clip, you can see the elf on the shelf spinning on the ceiling. The family who captured this clip swears that the elf got up there all by himself. If that's the case, is there anywhere else that cannot turn into a hiding place? We don't think so. In this clip, a camera captured an elf on the shelf quietly entering the house, but after a while, the elf decided to enter at all costs and hide at a place that will surprise you, so keep on watching. In this incredible clip, we have an elf hanging from the bed curtain frame, and suddenly it starts moving and slowly making its way to the other side of the frame using only its hand. Now, this elf is probably a gymnast back in the North Pole, and perhaps even elves have athletic competitions, so this elf decided to put in some time into training while it's away from its friends. In this clip, we can see an elf happily walking and dancing in the living room. At one point, the elf takes off for a brief flight, but then returns to the ground soon after. Most elves can fly, but it requires a lot of energy, and that's why elves avoid flying all over the place, even if it's really fun. The elf hops around the living room for a while before its owner comes into the room, making the elf go limp.
This clip shows another example of elves that like to use flying technology instead of magic. These kids were on a mission to catch their elf on the shelf as a part of their Christmas celebration. They were hoping to meet the elf on the Christmas tree and see it with their own eyes, but it had other plans. Stay around, as 2 hours later, the elf made a grand descent flying a candy-filled toy airplane, which is nothing surprising considering elves love sweets. This elf on the shelf got super mad at the kids for making it angry, and it got discovered sitting and flipping one of the kids off. The elf even left a note explaining that it's angry because the kids were behaving badly towards it. And well, while the elf should be setting a good example for the kids to follow, we can't blame it for losing its temper. This clip isn't anything new, but a moving elf is still fascinating to watch. Did you notice the elf's movement near the door? According to the video's owner, he was astonished when he saw the clip recorded on a surveillance camera, and then he was super happy about his decision to place it there.
For this clip, we have a shy elf on the shelf who clearly wants to start moving, but it knows that it's sitting right in front of the camera, so it doesn't move much, but slowly wiggles around in its place before it falls down on its side.
Now we have a clip that shows an elf who has become pregnant. I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen anything like this before. This very well might be the first pregnant elf on the shelf recorded on camera, and luckily the elf starts talking and explaining herself, so let's hear her out.